All right, hello everyone, and welcome. We are back after what it seems like 2 months of 2 months of Hex hiatus. I was gone on vacation for a couple of weeks in Barcelona. I was actually there during the attacks. Put up on Facebook that I am safe. After that, I ended up coming back. We were trying to get a show ready last week, and then well, there was voluntary evacuations in my neck of the woods, so I thought it best not to do any sort of cast there as we now roll on into what October 16th, a day before the PS4 release. Are you looking forward to that, Nico?
Not particularly, just because I'm looking forward to the player influx for sure, but I'm not particularly looking forward to the mode itself, just because it doesn't have PvE.
All right, but
So
hopefully it will bring in some additional players. I was
yeah,
fortunate enough to actually play it, and I'll say that the new user interface, it took a little bit of getting used to the actual deck building portion, but that the gameplay actually, like play in an actual game, the battle boards, everything looked beautiful, and it didn't take that much take didn't take that much learning. There was a couple of few things where people were like, "Hey, hit the R3 button," and I'm like, "What's the R3 button?" And then like I would do something on the controller, and then something would happen. I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." So there is a little bit of a learning curve there. Also, we're experimenting with some new technology. You have some talking heads to look at. If you didn't know what me or Nico look like, I don't know. Do I point this way? Yeah, I point this way since it's not a true mirror in order to point to Nico. So Nico says hi, we say hi, and we'll dive right into this particular set of casts. Yeah, see, he doesn't even know where to point. It's like a little like confusing, right? You're like, yeah, he's over there. Yeah. All right, so let's go back. Let's see what we're gonna be talking about this past week. For the upcoming weeks, I was able to visit the Hex offices, so Nico will be asking me some questions, and I will answer them to the best of my abilities since I don't know what I can answer there. We'll be going over the Kismet draft packs. Kismet was actually a very, very interesting draft pool. Upcoming Kismet pack rotation, the Haunted Harvest event, and in the interest of time, because it seemed like we have so much to talk about, we'll talk about the Immortal changes next time, and hopefully be able to start talking about Set 8 as well. So let's go ahead. Hex office visit, we already touched on this. PS4 Hex Card Clash, it's coming out tomorrow, or if you're watching this, you're not watching this live, it's already come out for you. They're actually patching in about an hour and a half, if you didn't know. And then Set 8, where is it? When can we expect it? Why haven't we heard anything? So, Nico, go ahead, ask me questions, and I will do the best of my abilities to still answer your question and be invited to go back to the Hex offices.
yeah, we don't want you to lose your privileges. So I guess my first question is, do you know have you seen any of the UI or other improvements that are coming to the PS4 make its way onto the PC platform yet that you've been able to see and test with? Is that
Uh,
something you can speak to?
uh, I guess I can say I didn't have to learn anything new when I did do deck building while I visited on the PC. So
Okay.
I guess that is an answer there. Um, I guess everyone can expect Set 8 when it initially launches. I would be extremely surprised, given the amount of rework that they did for the PS4, to see that during the Set 8 release. The software engineer part of me says you want to separate those two out as far as you can, since Set 8 is already so large. And when you introduce Set 8, in addition to that many UI changes, squashing out bugs and dreadlings would take forever and a day. So hopefully they're going for more of a agile method, smaller incrementation, but still, large enough to make a big enough difference, especially since it is going to be a set release.
Yeah, that makes sense. And with that said, and I think you had just recently mentioned the controller on the PS4. Did you experience any new hotkeys or I know you had mentioned like pressing R3. Are there any new hotkeys that we have to look forward to? Potentially when like, declaring attacks, or is that something you can speak to?
Like there's just a lot of things to kind of learn when you're playing with the PlayStation or the new interface. There's certain things that you expect to happen, and I think these are things that they can actually polish out a little bit more. And my feedback was, because some of the things aren't animated, you couldn't actually tell what was happening. Like I guess I can give this as a feedback where, hitting a button, it shifts your focus up and down, but because it doesn't have like a scrolling effect, it just goes, it's just like a jump, and you're like, what just happened? And you're like, and then your eyes have to like reorganize and figure out where you're looking. You're like, oh, I see what happened. But the first time you hit the button, you're just like, I don't know what I'm looking at yet.
Got it.
So there's some of that. Some of the things I specifically had to ask. I'm like, I wish you had the calculations. Like what is my resource count? How many artifacts? How many this and this? They're like, oh, hit these keys, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I don't know if that's me being new to the interface and not knowing, or if that will just go away after I'm exposed to that after a little bit more time. So. It may be one of those things where people are going to complain at first, like, oh, I wish it was better. And then 2 weeks down the line, it's like when like the Starbucks logo changed. Everyone's like, oh, I love the old one. And then 2 weeks later, everyone's just like, what did the old one look like? It might be one of those things.
Got it. And so I guess now we'll get into the more serious question. What is the strongest archetype in set 8?
I can answer that question by telling you I went 0-3 in all of my drafts.
Uh-oh. Okay,
so I am not the one you want to be.
You need to ask somebody else.
You got to ask someone else. But at the same time, when you're going up against the people who are designing the cards and know all the intricacies and all of that, sometimes you want to go 0-3 because you want people to know, hey, knowledge makes a difference, and as you draft a set, it gets better. I think in the previous set, I actually had gone 2-1 and 3-0, which to me means that there could be a lot more variance in the draft, and with that, I think we actually saw that in a lot of the 7-7-7, where if you want to experiment with new things, it could get away from you very, very fast. So maybe this is going to be one of those draft sets where the more you play, the more you understand the packs, the more you understand the intricacies, the better the set will be.
Got it. And okay, so another question is keywords. How many keywords are we hopefully going to get to look forward to? 3, less than 3, more than 3? Do you recall? Were the keywords developed when you were able to test?
I don't know if I can actually say the number of keywords. I will say from a programming perspective, there's actually a lot to look forward to. Like, I'm a computer programmer by trade, so when I saw some of the new things that they built, I thought to myself, wow, that took a lot of engineering. Similar to how, like, tunneling was a completely new mechanic, and like you had to program tunneling specifically. There are two new mechanics that I believe they had to program, and as I think about them, I'm just like, wow, there could be a lot of bugs in those two. So I'm interested to see how that actually plays out. So it does have some variance. One of them has very high variance, but like almost like as high variance as Conscript, I would say.
Wow, some people aren't going to like that, but I really enjoy Conscript. So, well, I'll look forward to that one. I just know that Conscript had a lot of haters, a lot of haters.
Well, like I will say this, like when it says sometimes, oh wow, you're really fuzzy all of a sudden.
I saw that. That's weird.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can fix that a bit.
All right. So, like say when you conscript a 3 cost troop, you could either get like Prince Zakaz or some like something else.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more refined than that. So you kind of know the power level, more of the power level when you're getting into it, but you may not necessarily be able to use it. I
Oh, I see what you're saying. I think I can understand that.
like
Um,
I don't know how much more I can say without actually not being without being uninvited. So like I'll leave it at that. Yeah,
okay.
I'll leave it at that. The other one does have some variance as well, but it's the decision's not in your hands.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, based on what we've seen from set seven, I like what they did with Runic, and that was really interesting. So
Mhm.
I'm sure that they're kind of figuring out more ways to make mechanics that are kind of in between Runic and Conscript, and the ways that they interact with the game, and different ways to like copy cards or make new cards. Because that's a lot of fun to play with, especially like now in this Kismet draft that we'll talk about more later. Just having the ability to conscript, and then also having the ability to like put cards back in our deck. Really fun. So the next question that I think we've already kind of talked about, and a lot of people are anticipating, is that the timeline. So with the ladder ending at the end of this month,
Mhm.
and our expectations that we see a set every 4 months, do you still have a feeling that there's enough time to release a new set before the end of the ladder season, or maybe shortly after the end of the ladder season?
I think it's going to be after the end of this ladder season, but before the Cosmic Crown Showdown.
Oh, okay.
Like
So
it's been like that for the past couple of sets where it's after the ladder season, but like I think one of the big reasons why they want to do it during like before the Cosmic Crown Showdown is they want to see the best and the brightest like play for something meaningful and early on to get a good gauge of what they've done with the set, because you got to remember, they're probably already working on set 9 if not set 10, and
yeah,
the earlier they can get their feedback, the better it's going to be. And the best feedback has always been the Cosmic Crown Showdown. So by doing that, they can be like, hey, let's these are the things that we were expecting, what worked, what didn't work, and what can we do to make the the set that we're currently working on better. Like I know a lot of people are can say, "Hey, why is it that we've been laddering with set 7 all this time and now it's with set 8 included?" That it's is it just a money grab? And it's also the development cycle, and getting feedback is such a big important part of any game and any industry, and getting true, unadulterated, unfiltered feedback in the form of Cosmic Crown Showdown is perhaps worth, I don't know, like focus groups, $100,000 worth of focus groups in that tournament.
So, based on what you said, though, I think the last set, correct me if I'm wrong, it released on like June 27th or something, because part of the reason why I think they wanted to release the set just prior to the ladder ending is because they wanted the ladder rewards to reflect the current set, or the most upcoming set packs as rewards. And I remember one time when they did not hit that goal, they retroactively granted us packs for the new set after the set released for ladder rewards. So those people that climbed the ladder quickly were able to get they like double dipped on the pack rewards. Um, do
I,
you think that's a concern still for Hex?
I do remember them doing that. So let's see. It that would mean that they're going to be releasing this on Halloween. Halloween?
Yeah, I mean that would make sense. Or maybe they have a way to stagnate the ladder rewards that they didn't have the ability to do before. But because a lot of it's like an auto grant thing, my guess would be that they would want to have that feature go off without a hitch with the new ladder season. So I mean, that's kind of the guess I had gone with for the last set, and it ended up working. But I don't know what their timeline looks like. And usually, I know that they said they wanted the spoiler seasons to be shorter,
Hmm.
but we're looking at like what 2 weeks now, as of tomorrow.
Yeah, that well, I don't know. Maybe instead of granting like the current pack, they would grant you like a little pack voucher, and then you can redeem it at any time. I
Oh, that'd be cool.
that would actually solve problems moving forward, where they wouldn't have to like retroactively give rewards. They can just like here's a voucher. If you want to redeem it now, you can, or you can like wait 4 days and get the new pack, or you can wait 4.5 4 months and some days and get that pack as well. So I don't
That's a
know
good idea. You
that.
should share that with the team.
Well, hopefully someone there still watches our podcast. I know Hexahedron, Hexahedron, if you still watch us, thank you. But Hexahedron did leave with a sudden goodbye. I was not aware. He was very much loved and answered a lot of my technical questions when I wasn't quite sure how a card worked.
Yeah, thanks for all you did, and thanks for all the rules clarifications. And I hope you're doing something that is best for you. And I'm sure that Hex has someone that's able to fill his shoes, hopefully doing a good job. I think in his letter to the community he addressed who that was, but I can't recall.
Yeah, and I don't want to misspeak and then have to apologize later. So I'll let whoever steps up into that role introduce themselves properly. All right, so we've only gone through like one item, and we still
Yeah, let's go.
and
Let's
one
move.
and one slide. So moving right on, Kismet draft packs. So if you guys haven't had the chance to look at the latest set or play in Kismet draft, it is a giant hodgepodge of absolute fun. Being able to play with Mobilize, Diligence, Spider Eggs, Dreadlings, Conscript, all of these interesting mechanics all at the same time. And yeah, it's just this crazy hodgepodge of all of these mechanics. And at first I had reservations like, what's going to happen? What is a new player going to think when they see all of this? But at the same time, it doesn't seem like it's out of hand. You look at the card, you read the card, and it's not like a physical TCG where you see a new keyword and you're like, what does this do? You right click on the card, you right click on the keyword, and it tells you. So
Yeah.
it's actually a lot of fun. Taking a look at some of these pools, Nico was able to pull together a lot of the strong cards, and this is your prismatic format defining. I'm assuming using Uzu or a lot of fixing to get this particular deck off the ground. And did you actually make a deck that uses like 60% of these cards?
I did. I think I shared one with you just recently where I was really greedy and I played Winter Moon. In fact, I've used Uzu to 3-0 twice. So it's a very strong archetype in this format. And the reason why it's strong is there's a lot of single threshold cards that have a huge upswing in value. So, like, for example, Moon Call Ceremony was a staple of the last block, and it has huge value. If you get super lucky on that, you could get a Stink Shot Sniper, you can get a Justicar for 2. Those are empower cards that you can quickly empower to 4 and then play them at their empowered, a reduced empowered cost.
Mm-hmm.
There are, Eager Lackey can hit in high Infinitrix. You can get, Dread Technomancer with a cheap shot. So the upside on some of these cards, Windborn Ascension can hit a Prince Zakis. That's a mono Sapphire Flight Prince Zakis. So the upside to these conscript cards is huge. And then you have other single threshold cards that we didn't have in the same format, like a Lyrical Chanter. I don't think Lyrical Chanter is in the same set. I'm having a hard time seeing its
No, I think
set type.
it's Primal Dawn because it has the Empower keyword.
Yeah, yeah. So you combine like a Primal Dawn card with these like set six cards that are crazy, and all of a sudden you have this crazy, super strong, high level Uzi deck that just is filled with great single threshold cards. And they threw in the Bone Walker too, so you can have a 5/5 for three. Yeah, so it's really fun that you also have access to Midnight Paladin. I forgot to throw it in this slide. Midnight Paladin's huge in this format. So you get a few of those cards and you are sitting pretty.
Yeah, I think in the deck that you showed me, you're using Winter Moon. You have with Midnight Paladin, and even when Midnight Paladin dies, he goes back into your deck. And then when you play him, he deals fives, heals five, and draws a card for four.
Yep.
And then you still have a physical body on the board. So very, very difficult to get around. You know, being able to restabilize that's about a 14 hit point swing if he's able to get one block off. So yeah, really, really big there. Taking a look at some of the other more popular pools that are out there. Taking a look at Blood, we have Zora's. Well, Nico did a great job for me here, just breaking down the cards not only by their threshold, but by what particular well, I can't even champion you should be using. So why don't you go ahead and speak into Zorazim, and I can take Zorath.
Okay, so Zorzim, just quick overview. Zorzim is the one that puts spiders into your opponent's deck. There's also Hatchery Cultivator and a bunch of other cards that you see in Zorath that would be good in the Zorzim deck as well. Zorzim, for Blood, we're looking at Arachnophobia and Violence Attendant. There's also Paraphagy. That's a really good removal card to use with this. Arachnophobia is going to remove cards from their hand and put spiders in their deck. Violence Attendant with Sapphire is going to be able to bury cards. It'll bury 6 cards when it comes into play, and then another 2 cards when it dies, at minimum. And that'll help you get those spiders into play. The spiders that you get from Zorzim are better than the Dreadlings you get from Zorath because they have unblockable, and there's other ways to pump up their attack in this format.
Yep. Moving along, you have Zorath. Zorath, you get the Dread Banner. The Dread Banner says at the start of your turn, create 1 Dreadling. And even though they die at the end of the turn and they are blockable, then you start triggering off of things that sacrifice and or come into play effects. Vilefang Emirate is one of those cards where all of a sudden your Vilefang with a Dread Banner essentially becomes a Twilight Eclipse. You're dealing 1 damage a turn. You're also healing 1 a turn. And if you have a Hatchery Tormentor in play, even if they block, they get eggs in their deck. And then if they draw an egg, the Vilefang Emirate still deals damage on your opponent's turn, and also allows you to put eggs into your opponent's deck on their turn, since at the end of the turn they have still taken damage. So one of those interactions that you're trying to look for, the Hatchery Tormentor can essentially put 2 eggs into your opponent's deck every round if you're dealing at least some form of damage. The Voracious Zombies, the Relentless Zombies, the Voracious Zombies are always looking for something to sacrifice in order to get that +2/+1. And if you're going to sacrifice it at the end of your turn, might as well feed it to a zombie. They get stronger, they get happier, and they keep on coming back in some relentless form.
Yeah, definitely. Zorath is probably one of the strongest archetypes in Kismet Draft, I would say, especially because of Vilefang Eremite and a Sapphire card we can talk about later, which is your Arachnomancer. But Vilefang Eremite is probably one of the strongest commons in this format. Definitely look out for that early if you're tempting to go spiders or dreadlings. And then Takahiro is an old favorite from the last block, where you sacrifice one of your own troops to draw a card and gain 3 health. And because of all the Dreadling generation, we can go fall back on that old format-defining deck. with old cards like Dread Apprentice and Naive Lackey, and the same cards we just talked about in both Zorath and Zorzum.
Yeah, adding into that, Evaporate and Call of the Grave work extremely well with the Dread Apprentice, since you're able to scrounge out multiple times. Anytime you're able to block with the Dread Apprentice and then bounce them back to your hand, or just get them from the crypt, play them again, and now instead of getting 3 Dreadlings, you're getting 6, or Heaven help your opponent if you have 2 Vilefang Emirates out and you get 9 Dreadlings. That's usually game at that point with an 18-point swing. I'm having a hard time remembering who Karak is.
So Karak is the champion that you pay for and you get a zombie
Right.
from one of the cards. One of your cards in the crypt transforms into a zombie. Now the benefit of this is that the card that transforms doesn't lose any of the modifiers that are already on it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can transform something that's already been pumped up by, like, say, an Abominate or a Profane Ritualist that already has permanent stat modifiers, and you can put a huge zombie into play. This is also good with cards that have modified Deathcry triggers on them, like something hit by a promiscuous succubus that's in this format.
Mm-hmm.
So I like it a little bit better now that we have access to it than using the, there is a Deathcry champion that I'm blanking on her name, and there's also Ixu, that's another sacrifice outlet, but I prefer Karak for getting cards back into play. Sometimes if I have the right deck and the right pump. So it's something to keep in mind. It's probably one of the more tier 3 style type of decks for this format, but it all depends on the cards you get.
All right. There's also the Oxo Primeval that if you have the Deadeye, I absolutely love. So the Primeval is 4 charge powers, sacrifice a troop, target opponent or target troop gets -2/-2, and then the Deadeye has the Death Cry -1/-1. So you can kind of split up like a 2-for-1, so to speak. And since there are so many troops out there, like you can do a lot of just really interesting things. Or if you want the one that creates a zombie with a Death Cry in your crypt, that's really, really good if you've somehow got more than one Blightbark champion, or if you got the Nether Blossoms that are also really, really popular as well.
Is Ixu, is he a 4-cost charge?
I believe so.
Nice.
All right, so moving right along, we have Diamond going for Goot, Papa Goot, the good old gain 1 life, but you put yourself in a very, very big health hole to begin with. You have the Ghost Howler and the Mesa Totemis. Also, where's the Cherry Songbird? Why didn't you add the Songbird?
So yeah, Cherry Songbird's part of this. There's also wild cards that we can talk about later. But I would say that the 2 most defining cards for this format would be the Ghost Howler and the Mesa Totemis, although the Cherry Songbird's great too. But I think it becomes, a 4/3 in the air when you heal, something like that. The nice thing about Mesa Totemis, though, is it scales, same with Ghost Howler. So if you have 2 of the Papa Goot Daybreaks in play, you will have exponential attack. And Mesa Totemis also has Swift Strike. So all of a sudden, this 1/4 Mesa Totemis is a 4/4 hitting you in the face every turn. And it's really hard to deal with unless you're chock full of removal. So, and then Ghost Howler is even more difficult to deal with because it also has Steadfast. So some of the removal in this format, like Butcher, is not going to hit it. It can dodge Vanquish for a little while, unless it's played on their turn. So, yeah, just real strong. The wild cards that are paired with this make it even more effective, in that Papa Goot can activate its healing at the beginning of every turn as early as turn 3, makes all of the cards that go into this deck very effective.
Yeah, it gets very, 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 very out of hand very quickly. If you have the Pious Paladin as well, I know some people have been making play mistakes with Pious Paladin and the Ghost Howler, being able getting that life drain off of the Swift Strike, all of a sudden everything gets an additional +1/+1 that turn, and like all of your combat damage goes out the window. Or even giving some sort of Swift Strike with a Runic Strike on something else that has life drain. You can try and gauge your opponent and not have them expect certain things. We're moving straight on to Ada, classic diamond damage in the air, even though there isn't the minor attack flight gem, which was extremely popular when Ada was out there. They decided not to give access to all gems. No Dreadling one-shot gem, unfortunately, but it's still made for a very, very interesting Ada deck. And it seems like Treacherous Pass, I've found, is the only way to deal with it, short of your opponent going some sort of air evolution, and then all of a sudden you got to deal with those phantoms again.
Yeah, mentioning Treacherous Pass, that's a really great card for this format too. So good, in fact, that you should be picking it up as early as first or second pick. It deals with Dreadlings quite well, and it deals with Ada quite well. Ada is probably, I would say, my top pick for this entire Kismet draft format. I would say it's a little bit above Dreadlings in terms of effectiveness, but it really depends on the cards that you get. Air Evolution is probably one of the strongest pre-combat tricks that you can play in the game, and it's especially effective in an Ada-themed deck. So definitely look for this. Another card that's not here that's very good for this is the Storm Rider, which is a 3-drop Coyote that has Revert, and it can help quite a bit against Sapphire counterplay, because there are like incubation webs and shackles that you can remove from troops.
Yeah, like I've seen like two of those Storm Riders, and the opponent only had shackling strands as removal, and you're just like it's gonna revert itself, so it's gonna use the one shot, remove the shackling strands, and get the one shot back. And you're like, fun. All right, moving along, we got Ovo Puff, which is the classic reversion. I didn't see that many of the wild troops that were discard and then come back. Is like, I believe there's one of those in this.
Yeah, so this is more of like a tier 3 format. I've had a good Ovo Puff deck before because I had 2 or 3 Earth Callers in my pool, and with playing Puff, anything you get back with your Ethereal Caller, you can then take that Phantom and turn it back into the troop. And because there's so many strong troops and cards in this format, it's very nice to have the ability to use that recursion in that way. So I found it to be pretty effective, especially because if you're playing Puff, you can deal 4 damage, but it also is another way to revert cards that are targeted with popular quasi removal from Sapphire, because Sapphire Blood is just such a popular archetype. So it's something to pay attention to if you get the right cards for it, but there's only a very small amount of cards that actually are format defining for that particular deck.
All right, and the Bishop deck here, the Talonkeep Watcher and the Talonkeep Hunter, you're going to have to talk on this one because I don't know anything about this one.
Okay, so Bishop Elijah is the champion that has a forecast charge power that says, put any troop that has 2 or less costs from your crypt back into your hand. So the nice combo with that is if you're able to scoop up, like, let's say 4 Talonkeep Watchers and like 2 Talonkeep Hunters, then Bishop Elijah is an amazing pick. I had a particular draft where I also got a William Rowan. So I was like, okay, this is an easy decision. I'm going to go ahead and play Bishop Elijah. There's also cards like Blood Scout that you might want to get back to create more value for you. And then if you're combining that with things like Blindside, all of a sudden you have a strong, perhaps mono diamond deck that's just going to crush people.
I just got to speak into this just because it happened to me. I was running a Bishop deck. I had 4 Brute Crown Bashers, 4 Brute Crown Nashers, and a Daughter of the Poet.
Nice.
And
I
no,
found that. Oh, go ahead.
no,
Go ahead.
and I lost because
Oh man.
my opponent played Massacre. So all of a sudden, like my entire board of like, hey, I got everything under control. I can just recursion everything.
Oh man.
No, like everything was permanent -3, -3. I had a -1, -1 Daughter of Poet in my crypt with 8 charges, and I had like the Nashers and the Bashers, and they're all sitting there. I'm like, I, like I just like was shriveling in my chair. Like I can't do anything. This feels absolutely horrible. I ended up going 1 and 2 with that deck, losing the first two rounds, and my
Oh, that's sad.
my third round opponent was like complaining to me like, how did you get so many good stuff? And I'm like, I'm 0 and 2 right now. And
Yeah, that's pretty unlucky. But yeah, I mean, there are some crazy two drops that you can get, and I've noticed that also the cards you mentioned, Ruby, the Scrap Tooth Manglers or whatever they're called, they can combo pretty well with the Diamond deck. Like you could just draft Talon Keeps and the Scrap Tooth Knolls and have a deck all of a sudden. And I actually did that once where I had like 7 of the Talon Keeps and 6 of the Knolls, and I just made a deck with those like 15 troops and a bunch of other cards, and it actually worked pretty well. So do not count out some of the crazy cards that you can get that are kind of like not thematically related to anything except for themselves.
yeah, they like anything else in the set. If you get enough of them, they reach critical mass much quickly than you would think, and then they just add on to each other. Moving along because we're only like I think halfway through the
Oh
show.
god, yeah, let's go fast.
Okay, so Josephina with sockets.
Sockets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Spiritbound Vicar, you obviously put in the +2 defense gem. You keep that alive. All of a sudden, all of your other socketed troops, Grimskull Tacticians, Emberleaf Blade Masters are starting to look better. You can throw in some Fate Weave in there with the 3-drop 2/4 with the minor gem
Yep.
that gets the flight, and all of a sudden there's sockets galore, and even your Dusk Wings start looking really really strong because they become 3/3s and 4/4s in the air, exhaust the troop. Anything else I'm missing on that one?
Nope, you pretty much hit it.
All right, going to Ruby, Surging Wildfire Elk. It was popular back when it was just Surging Wildfire and Elk, and it once again makes a really, really strong comeback. Being able to deal damage, it has rage, it has speed. You give it crush and an additional attack on the turn, and add in a Runic Fury that maybe you've played the turn prior, and you top decked a resource. Actually, no, that doesn't work that way. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and just to correct you, because I think you mentioned runic cards twice. I don't think there's any runic cards in this format, not that I can remember. But I could be wrong. I just don't remember ever getting any. And also, this, even though I wrote Elk, it's also for Rico. So if you're just playing a very troop-heavy deck, especially with conscript cards that are going to create you more troop value for your hand, Rico is also a great fit for this archetype.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'll let you take this, McBombus.
Yeah, so McBombus, old staple, old favorite. There's a lot of great actions in this, especially for Sapphire and Ruby, especially now that they're crossing blocks, like being able to get Seeing Red with combat training and some of the other newer buffs. There's also Cry of Gwain. You can make a crazy strong McBombus deck. Flickering Gobbler, old staple McBombus, and then also Embertongue Skarn. So some great commons and great uncommons that just go into creating value for you, especially when you can get the free troops that are added to your deck from just using McBombus's charge power. So great little deck there.
All right, moving on. I know the Brewcrown Basher and the Scraptooth Nasher deck. I'm trying to remember which one was Torque.
Torque is a champion that gives all of your troops Gladiator for the next turn, 2 turns basically. It's your turn and then your opponent's turn. So you get a little bit of a bonus attack And I think it works well with this format because if you get a bunch of the brute crowns and some removal,
Hmm.
you can keep the board clean and then have a much larger swing when you're trying to do the final blow.
Yeah, it also works well with Furico if you're able to go Ruby Wild. The same idea since Brute Crown Basher and Nasher, they're kind of fragile going in unless you have a lot of Bashers with one big Nasher. At some point, you just have so many small troops that have a lot of good come into play effects. Then you make them big, and you've gone wide so much that you can take out your opponent. Moving on to
Sure.
Swamp Butt, Arcane Al- I know
And
the
clarity?
clarity. I
Or,
can't even say the
yeah.
word right now. Arcane clarity and arena regular. No big shock there in terms of how that works well with Swamp Butt. A clarity giving you additional charges, regular dealing damage to your opponent, and Swamp Butt giving you free actions and the ability to draw additional cards. A clarity with Swamp Butt was already good and limited. Throw in an arena regular or two, and you're dealing damage to the face and clearing the board while drawing cards. Couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, and one other thing to say about this format, if you do see it open, you can pick cards that are often passed quite a lot, like Astral Clarity, I believe it's called. That gives you three charges
Hmm.
and draws three cards for six. There's also Theorize, which is perfect for this, and there's also the other draw from Sapphire, like Land Upon Sight, Arcane Focus, and what's the other one I'm forgetting that draws three cards? I think it's on another slide here. The one that has Mobilize.
Consult the Talon.
Yeah, Consult the Talent. So yeah, with those added to a Swamp Butt deck, all of a sudden it's just all gas in your hand, and you're basically burning through your deck.
Hmm. All right, we're moving on to Sapphire. Arachnomancer. I think you had touched on this a little bit earlier. If you have an Arachnomancer and a Vilefang Emirate in play, you are essentially with the Dread Banner, which is easy to do since it does cost 5. You're essentially gaining a life a turn, dealing 1 damage per turn, and drawing an additional card before you play your first basic action, and that is amazing card advantage. And a lot of people just a lot of decks out there can't stop that type of setup, since there is a lot of protection in Sapphire with the spell shield and the spell shield and Coral Cove, the 4-drop 2/4 that gives spell shield, and some of the other counter spells that are currently out there.
Yeah, yeah, the Coral Cove Witch. Just one other note about the Hatchery Malvoker is that it's amazing in a Wintermoon deck because you can just keep playing actions forever,
Hmm.
and then you just keep getting free spiders. So also worth trying out in Wintermoon.
All right, going back, touching on Ada. Ada Flight, always really strong. The Vigilant Duskwing, that 3/5 body in the air is so difficult to take out, and it is essentially better than Steadfast since it readies itself every time, as opposed to being able to use some sort of basic a basic speed ability to exhaust. It will still be able to come back. Chill Tail Guide with Ada, you are guaranteed, well, 9 times out of 10, at least 2 chills, if not more, setting
Yeah.
you up for just one major alpha swing.
Yeah, and just to back what you said about Vigilant Duskwing, it's probably one of the most frustrating cards to play around if you're trying to push damage. So super good. Take them if you can. I've gotten beat by people that just put up a wall of three of those right before I had lethal damage. So yeah, it's super strong. McBombus again is showing two other cards that are great. The Prestidigitator creates extra value by giving you another action, and then Lenopause Sight allows you to draw more cards, and it's also an action, so it can throw a 1/1 robot bee into play, Bumblebot into play for you as well.
Yeah, Winter Moon making a very very strong showing once again. It's already very popular in constructed and in limited with such a wide pool of actions. Arcane Soil. Um, it now becomes draw 3 cards, summon an additional Dreadling if you're able to get it back in. Incubation webs, all of those cards just gives you more gas. Don't expect to win quickly with Winter Moon, but expect to win. When you do win, it's just overwhelmingly dominant. Your opponent just doesn't know what's going to happen. I think I saw Infamous Neo. He was playing a Winter Moon deck, had a Lyrical Chanter, played Arcane Soil, played a Battle Chant. He drew into 14, or he had 7 cards in his hand, put it down 7 Dreadlings, played a Battle Chant, played 2 more Constants on top of that, and all of his Dreadlings were 5/5, and you're like, what just happened to the board? You had nothing, and all of a sudden you have lethal damage and then some. So yeah, Winter Moon, it can escalate and get out of hand very quickly.
Yeah, Lullaby is also in this format. So if you can get a Lullaby, I think I might have shared that on the next slide, but if you get a Lullaby, you can play an Endless Fog deck too in this format, which I've actually been beat by, where you just continually use your charge power. Astral Clarity is a card I think I mentioned too that also works in this format because it allows you to continually get Winter Moon charges. So you can endlessly fog people and beat them that way. It's crazy when it actually works because it's super frustrating for your opponent.
All right, moving right along. Do you touch on Lullaby? Yes, you do. Goot, it goes back to the life gain. Chlorosaur, being able to get make that particular dinosaur that much stronger. Harvest Moon, I've actually seen also used in Winter Moon as well, just because it's a quick action, and Winter Moon decks generally want to go long anyway. So anytime you're gaining life and then a cheap action goes back into your deck to draw more cards, that's a good thing.
Definitely. Yeah, Winter Moon, Lullaby again, a Spring Renewal to get the cards that you want from the crypt back into your hand without a charge power. And just very strong when you're able to continually cycle cards. Again, Zorath, this is a blood wild combination. You have cards like Shoku's Garden that's going to allow you to heal every time your Dreadlings die, and then crazy attack when you add something to the mix like a potent puffball that's going to give all of your Dreadlings plus 2 attack, all of your Shroomkins plus 2 attack, and then Burly Botanist to create more Dreadlings, and then Springletter Disciple to add additional Dreadlings for any Dreadling that's created.
Yeah, if you have a Burly Botanist and 2 Vilefang Emirates out in play, your opponent just kind of dies a little on the inside because you're dealing 6 a turn and healing 6 a turn. It's just a matter of time, and you don't even have to attack at that point. Fog doesn't do anything. You're just looking at your opponent going, what are you going to do? Moving right along for Rico, the 7 charge power, make everything bigger. You want to go wide, and with Verdant Mill, Blight Bush, Wild's Favor, Fungus Among Us, all ways to be able to go extra wide and then get extra value out of going wide, if not for at least 1 turn, sometimes even multiple turns.
Yeah, Eager Lackey is another great one for this because it's a troop that creates another troop. Also, Cottontail, the Prismatic Cottontail guy that creates 2 conscript cards. Cheap Shot's another good one because it's a removal and it creates a troop. So those types of cards fit very well into this format. But it does not have to be blood as a pairing. You can pair it with any other color that's going to create troop value for you. For example, there is the rare from Diamond that creates 2 troops. I think it's called Illusions Parade or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And it gets the sockets.
Yeah. All
right, we're finally done with the Kismet draft. I know we're already halfway done with that, so hopefully you guys can learn a little bit more, get some more, at least 2 1s, if not 3-0s. I think I've gone 3-0 maybe 4 times, so 3 or 4 times. About half of my drafts have been 3-0, so I don't know. Nice. I think I've been extremely lucky because the decks, I'm like, oh, this is really good. I go like 1 and 2, and then like, oh, this is okay. I go 3-0. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just reading signals well, I guess. All right, moving right along. Kismet's Reserve. It is going to be rotating out, and the next set of cards we will be focusing on are vampires. Vampires,
Hey.
Lady Violet Blightbark. A vampire we have the alternate art there. We also have some additional cards that you can be looking at, but the Kismet's Reserve, aside from the beautiful alternate art, you are going to be looking at some very, very nice PvE items. And we have a new mercenary for you. And I'm sure Nico and the other members of Cornerstone can break this faster than I can. I just don't know what Duskwing form is. Do you?
I don't. I don't. And I haven't really looked at this mercenary yet. So have not found a way to break him yet. But if anything that's a vampire theme is cool with me. He's also a champion, so I don't know if he has any synergy with the PvE cards because it says like when a vampire you control deals damage to opposing champion, reduce the cost of this card. I'm not sure if because he's a champion vampire, if he would actually reduce the cost. Maybe I have to read that PvE card again. It might be true, but it's cool that we have a vampire champion that we can play. Um, I think we do have another vampire. The Count Davian's also a vampire champion as well. But I will look into this card more. It is crazy that he only has 10 health. So Duskwing form is probably pretty important.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is maybe it has stealth, or maybe you can only be attacked by troops with flight or something crazy like that. But we'll see.
Yep. I don't know. Maybe he prevent all damage to him for a turn since he's in the. I don't know. It really does depend on the Dustwing form, and
Yeah.
we'll go back to that from there. There are some additional cards that are part of the Kismet's Reserve for the vampires. We have the Royal Bloodline, which is a basic action, and it says when a vampire deals damage, so
Ah.
it's not a vampire troop, and it's not when your vampire deals damage either. So if your opponent
Oh.
is using vampire cards. So I don't know.
Interesting.
We might have some sort of vampiric war going on here. Would be very, very interesting. Royal Bloodline, I looked at it as a card that almost screams if you're winning, you win more. Since generally, if you have vampires dealing damage, you're already on your way to winning, unless well, it says yeah, it's to a champion. It's not any damage. It's to a champion.
Yes.
So that's gonna be key there. So you can't like throw your vampire princes and princesses at troops and then bring back the royal bloodline. That's not gonna work.
Well, what you can do, because there is no requirement for it to be in play, is you can combine it with a card like Infernal Professor, where the vampires will be dealing self damage to you from your hand, and that self damage will not even show because they also have life gain. So that could be an interesting way to reduce the cost of this card without actually having any vampires in play dealing damage.
All right. Only you and a handful of other hex players would figure out a way to break
I
this.
just thought of it, so.
All right, let's keep on going. There is also the Enthralling Gaze. It is essentially play a card from your opponent's hand. So it's like Withering Gaze, except better, because you take that card immediately and play it for free. And you can play a troop if you have the legendary equipment.
Yeah, this card's going to be pretty awesome, and I think the equipment's going to be pretty chase for it too. Both pieces are very nice, trinket and chest. I'm fairly sure that this is going to be the chase set right here. So I think this will see a lot of PvE play. It's going to be one of those fun cards like Relentless Corruption. However, because it actually takes a card from the hand, it's even better than like Relentless Corruption. So, like you said, like a Withering Gaze. But yeah, I think this will be super popular, and it's only double blood threshold, so you can also splash it in some other themed decks. Campaign might be great with the Oni champion because you can get blood and sapphire threshold very quickly,
Hmm.
and Onis also have access to Swift Blood Trickster, so you can quickly counter a bunch of stuff with the combination of this card and the Trickster.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how all of this works. For all of you guys who love PvE and all the puzzles that you guys can unravel, hopefully Hex will give us more puzzles in the PvE realm. Can't speak into that too much because I don't know anything. But let's move along. We still have the Haunted Harvest event that is coming up. And aren't those kids absolutely adorable dressing up as the baby Yeti, Bro's Eye Buck, and Uranus? I saw them and I was just like,
Yeah.
that's absolutely cute right there. Haunted Harvest, they're out to get some candy and sweets. They don't want tricks, they just want treats.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun card too, especially with the equipment. Looks like it'll be quite playable. So I'm looking forward to actually playing around with this PvE card too. So some of the last few events I have not been excited about the PvE card, but this is one in particular that I'm actually excited about. One because it's a troop, two because it's low cost,
Hmm.
and three because it has really good equipment that actually will allow you to get ahead in PvE encounters. So yeah, you can see there's one that allows you to give it +2 defense, which will keep it alive a little bit more. And then if the top card of the deck is a non-resource, all of the blocking troops are going to get -3 attack, -3 defense permanently, which is huge.
Hmm.
So this Tricky Tyke's attacking on turn 3, which is probably the most realistic turn it'll attack by, is going to probably help you wipe the board.
Well, I argue that you are going to make a deck that has permafrost and tricky tykes, and
Oh yeah.
and break it somehow.
Oh, and that man, I can figure it out. What much easier than that? Just give me a Lady Cassandra and her trinket, and I can get this into play on turn 1. No problem.
All right, all right. Like I set the bar too low. I apologize. All right, so well, going back to the talking heads, since we don't have anything else, is there anything else you want to talk about? This is an hour-long show. I am well. If you stuck with us for this long, thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed whatever you're doing, your train ride, listening to us at work, just ramble on about a video game that we all love. Anything you want to add?
Uh, Farm your gold as fast as you can before the 20th. I think that's when the Kismet pack goes on rotation. A lot of people, I don't believe, have the sets of the Berry Bunch, and the Berry Bunch is going to be a fun card to have around. So, farm gold. If you're playing Frostring Arena, you can do that pretty easily with Terramill. If you haven't played Terramill and want to try something more budget, I'm working on a list that I'll try to share soon. But yeah, just hope you guys that are into PvE are able to get the cards you want before the rotation happens, because we may never see those cards again. Other than that, enjoy Kismet Draft, and maybe use that auction house a little bit because we might have an influx of players coming within the next few hours. So get ready to make some plat and be able to play some more.
Yep. All right. So from all of us here at Cornerstone, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you guys, we still have like, I still have like tons and tons and tons of like giveaway stuff to do.
Whoa.
But I'm not sure how. Like, yeah, like this is Mercenaries. Like this is like the Cloud King stuff, and I think this is about maybe a third of what I have. It's still all down in the corner. So if you have ideas, please let us know. Leave comments. Maybe leave comments in the video. I will privately message someone and hand out stuff before the next show. If you're watching this and there's a episode, well, the next episode already out, you can leave a comment, but don't expect to get anything.
Yeah, that sounds good. I can't think of a better way to do it. We were doing puzzles, but that's a lot of time to set up. So for Crota and myself to keep our sanity and life outside of Hex, it's probably better for us to just go this route to gift the community.
Yeah, I mean, if you're already watching this, you can probably, yeah, you probably already left a comment. Anyways, thanks for watching again. Hope to see you guys online.
See you next time.